Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. This is Joe with the LSA, and I'd like to welcome all of you to our webinar series. Today's webinar is titled Top 5 Sales Hacks for Local Sellers, and will be brought to you by our guest presenter, Amanda from Localead. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Over to you, Amanda.
Thanks, Joe. I'm absolutely thrilled to partner with you guys with LSA on this webinar today. And hi, everybody. I'm Amanda Dukes. And as for kind of a quick glimpse into who I am and what I do, you can see, of course, I run sales for Localead, and we're essentially a local sales intelligence platform, and we're helping sellers target small businesses and mid-market companies, helping them identify relevant prospects, and then quickly connect with those decision makers there. And some of you might be familiar with some of our household kind of brands under List Partners. So we've been in this business intelligence space for a little over 20 years. And essentially what I do in my day-to-day is also what my clients do as well, so business development as a whole. I work in that really unique side of business development, so I'm actually selling a solution that in turn helps sales teams sell. So if you're following, basically it just means that you could definitely say business development is kind of our thing. So on a personal level, I'm kind of the crazy dog lady, so of course I couldn't get through a presentation without showing you my dogs. I would definitely be more of a crazy dog lady if my husband would let me have more than these two little wild things. But that kind of ties in with what I do with business development, because I'm fortunate to have found a really interesting way to kind of marry my two passions, so rescue and business development together. I help manage one of the country's most well-funded international rescue organizations. It's called Adopt a Golden Atlanta, so if you are ever in the market for golden retriever, let me know. But with the rescue, I'm really helping aid in the sponsorship development side for the organization. So for a lot of our large events like Golden Rama and our annual Golden Gala, really helping bring in those brands and companies on the sponsorship side, just like I help my clients do every day on the business development side for their brands and their agencies or media companies. So at the end of the day, I pretty much live and breathe development, sales development. I'm an entrepreneur. I was raised by an entrepreneur. So you could definitely say building brands and businesses is in my blood. But back to what I actually get paid to do, sales development. So what we do, again, at Localead and List Partners, Inc., some of the clients that our team is working with on a day-to-day basis, they're some of the most influential and successful players in the space, like agency, print, digital, TV, out-of-home, nonprofit and event sponsorship, of course, and even 90+% of professional sports teams and organizations. So really helping all of those across the board, all different areas, just continue their success and build their business development for those companies and those sellers there. That said, I'm pretty thrilled to share with you guys some of the best and most unique kind of tips and tricks and sales hacks, if you will, that I myself use, as well as, of course, all of our clients use on a pretty daily basis, because today's topic is actually, ironically enough, it's a really popular one that we've presented on in the past, and I get asked about it often, hey, what are your top tricks or tips, and in this case, your hacks. So as someone like you who is responsible for sales and business development, I also am working with sales professionals on a direct level day to day. I know firsthand just how important it is to have the right tools and the right strategy in place to kind of prospect most efficiently. And that said, why that efficient side of things is most critical. Revenue goals are most primarily typically based on sales productivity as a whole, which, when this is poorly managed, can cause over $1 trillion loss for companies annually. And a lot of that is realized revenue that you can save. So ultimately, it's a very sobering fact that more than half of this sales time that's wasted is wasted on unproductive prospecting. And again, kind of putting that into a financial perspective, depending on how many reps you have and what their salary level is, if you've ever kind of dove into the dollar amount that you're tagging to unproductive or time wasted around not empowering your sales reps with the right tools or the right abilities and training, it can be incredibly eye-opening. So as you see here, of course, even with just a team of 2, if they're wasting even as little as an hour a day on inefficient prospecting, it can be costing your company as you see here, over $17,000, tens of thousands of dollars every year, and that's pretty nauseating. So let's talk sales hacks. The first one, half the battle is uncovering exactly who you should be going after. So again, identifying those qualified prospects. So look, of course, you know who your general target audience is. But none of us know what we're unaware of or what we don't know, right? So in more relatable terms, everyone out there, especially if you're married, you definitely experienced that age-old, hey, where do you want to eat tonight? Oh, I don't know, where do you want to eat tonight? And if you haven't, the struggle is real, let me tell you. So if you've ever noticed with that struggle, how long have you lived in your area? It doesn't really matter how long you've been there. You still typically go to the same handful of places all the time. So for me, at least, when a friend or a colleague invites me to go to a new restaurant or a shop or a fitness studio, I'm usually thinking like, wow, this place is so cool. I had no idea it was even here. And when we put that into a sales perspective, ultimately the moral of the story is that there's so many countless businesses in every industry, in every vertical, that are right in your backyard, and they're in the backyards of everyone all across the country, and we aren't even aware that they exist. They aren't even on our radar. So imagine how many prospective clients you haven't seized simply because they just aren't on your radar. So the hack here, again, is really putting those people that you were unaware of on your radar. So with that, kind of brings us to the old way of doing things, the old school where you're driving around, you're knocking on doors, you're getting paper cuts, flipping through page after page, you're stalking your competitors' clients, and there's a hack for this. So the best way to kind of come at this from a newfangled perspective, really save yourself a lot of time, which translates to revenue, is business intelligence. So just like we talked about, you having no idea that there was that really super cool new Mexican place with the amazing cheese dip, those guys probably also have no idea that you're out there and you're providing services that you are. So not only do those mid-market and SMBs that we're all after have the deepest need to build brand recognition and customer awareness, but they also might have the least exposure or the least level of awareness to the potential solutions or offerings that you all or your organization brings to the table. That said, whether you're selling agency services or consulting or cloud SaaS solutions or even tangible goods, you really can't, in this day and age, you really can't live by the build it and they will come kind of mentality if the they out there doesn't know that you're even here. So put yourself on their radar and in turn, fill your radar up with people that you didn't even know existed. And the hack, again, for that would be business intelligence resources like, for example, here's a few platforms that would help you uncover treasure troves full of prospects. So they give you sort and filter capabilities, which in turn help you and your team or your sales reps really return prospects that are qualified or important to you. So it's one thing to have a lot of inbound or a lot of people just on your radar, the whole spring prey idea. It's another thing to have those prospects be really genuinely qualified or important and relevant to what it is that you provide and you being an ideal solution for them. So the way that you would do that, again, you can quickly and directly connect with decision makers via these different platforms, which again help your reps really explain how this solution solves a specific inhibitor or problem for that prospect that they're currently facing or maybe will face in the future. So once you determine what that inhibitor to their growth is and that your solution is going to circumvent or solve, outline it and then really educate that prospect on how your solution helps you both mutually succeed together. So in order to do that, of course, you really need to have a really strong understanding of that specific prospect, not just who your prospect is, but really understanding their specific business, their specific needs, and how it is that you can kind of have that niche pitch to get on their radar. So, it's like doing business with everyone out there. If we could all create that custom picture-perfect client, we definitely would. And every now and then they come across your radar, and it's like Christmas. So on the flip side, in between, we can actually hack the sales process so that you're making your pitch truly niche every time. So by doing that, you make yourself relatable. You are the expert in the situation. So, question, here's a great example. Has anybody ever bought a house with like custom finishes or had like a custom suit made? It feels like every time someone attaches that custom word to something, that immediately we're starting to think like, well, how does this perfectly serve me? Or what specifics do I want? Even when it goes down to frozen yogurt, you know, I want strawberries and granola, and someone else might want chocolate chips. So it's really built custom for you because you feel like the product is yours specifically and like no one else's. So, you know, when we all start immediately thinking about how it serves us specifically, in this case, again, these local cabinet makers say it right here on their homepage. And if you can't see it, I went ahead and highlighted where they specifically say they're tailored to fit your specific needs, and they're specifically designed a way around you use your kitchen and bathroom, for example. So I don't know about you guys, but then I start reading this, and I, you know, don't tell my husband, but now I want new cabinets. So I'm picturing in my head, I'm like, well, these aren't just cabinets. These are my cabinets. They're built for my TV. They're built for my specific kitchen tools. These guys totally get me. So, I mean, if it's not pretty apparent, you know, I pretty much took the niche bait, hook, line, and sinker. I made it so that it was relatable to myself, and it was something that I immediately had interest in because I felt like this provider understood the solution that I was needing for me specifically. So the sales hack, in order to get yourself more niche or find those more niche prospects, really the best thing you can do that we would advise are SIT codes. So if you're not familiar with SIT codes, they're standard industrial classification codes. And a good example of this for when you want to look really niche, take local advertising, for example. Even if you're not in local advertising, I'm sure you've been driving down the road or at home listening to your favorite radio show or TV broadcast, and then a totally out-of-place ad airs, and you're thinking like, well, that's pretty strange. I bet they won't see any ROI on that. So, you know, even if you're not in advertising, you still inherently know who this station's general audience is because, I mean, if you're listening to it, chances are you're probably part of that target audience because it's your favorite station, right? So the same goes for your surroundings. And you know your city. You know the artsy city areas. You know the trendy chic areas. You know where the young professionals flock. You're relevant. And in that same way that you understand your personal surroundings, you also understand your professional surroundings, if you will. You're already understanding of brands' perceived reputations and their targeted followings. You're relatable. You're the expert here. You imagine how valuable that is to a brand or to a prospect of yours. That insight would be when you're pitching to that decision maker who immediately levels with you because they see you as the expert. They see what you bring to the table as a custom fit. They get you. So from here, again, as sales professionals, we need to clearly understand what our clients' custom needs are and then how to give them a best-fitting, custom-feeling approach. So again, back to the SIT codes. If you're not familiar with those, they are actually the U.S. Department of Labor's standard industrial classification system. So in layman's terms, just think of it as an absolute goldmine. That is, if you know how to navigate it, which can be kind of tricky. So here's your hack. On the left, of course, you're seeing, you know, all of that detail as far as the U.S. Department of Labor goes, and then on the right, you can see where you're actually able to search SIT codes for specific things like tax versus things like tax accountants. So here's a more relatable example. SIT codes. As we're breaking this down, you know, anybody that knows me knows, of course, I couldn't pass up another opportunity to talk about dogs again. So if you work with or you host a really niche event like Bark in the Park, for example, not only would I probably go to it, but for you, it would also be really ideal for you to start reaching out to really specifically related prospects, like, for this example, local groomers, local pet boarding facilities, and veterinarians, things of that nature. Absolutely. So on the flip side here, if you have this fantastic client of yours who you have this amazing success story that you really want to get out there, you want to tell this incredible story about them, wouldn't you want to tell that story, that really, really great example, to all of those other prospects that do the exact same thing specifically, like specifically carpet cleaners or tax accountants or people who own pizzerias instead of just restaurants? personal injury attorneys or residential realtors. You need to get more specific because that drives your likelihood of success there. So you should be reaching out to those other providers in that very, very specific market segment. And how do you do that? Again, SIT codes. So SIT codes are helping you circumvent the typical but very broad level industrial searches. So you're just seeing, for example, that industry, and maybe there's sub-industry. So like this example, we've got the industry of home services, and the sub-industry here is all of real estate. Or again, legal services with a sub-industry of all law firms. So we can hack this, again, through the SIT codes by allowing you to then very granularly search. So that granular search is going to give you all of these subsegments that you see here, like very specifically residential realtors, or very specifically attorneys practicing a specific area of law like personal injury, for example. So ultimately, and kind of in addition here, another little bonus tip would be, as we're reaching out to all of these people with these very, very niche prospects of ours, we have to grab their attention, right? So actually getting them to hear us, actually catching that attention. And that brings us to, like I said, this little bonus tip, testimonials. You're going to do this with testimonials. So of course you think your prospects, or I'm sorry, of course you think your product is great. You're literally paid to tell people and convince people how great it is. But let's be honest, your prospects know that. They know that that's kind of the place that you're coming from. So you have to, again, hack the traditional sales process and come from a different place, come from a place of value add. So it totally changes the conversation if I send over a prospect, I send them something where one of their peers or their partners or even their competitor is raving about my offering. Now, again, this conversation totally takes on a sudden new life. So the bonus tip, collect those compelling testimonials. You've got to do it. And then when you do, send them to absolutely anyone who would find that person who gave the testimonial, that person, that brand, that industry, that company, anyone who would find that relevant or intriguing. So the step 2 here would be to kind of marry these two ideas together. Use those SIT codes to find those little niche clients that this exact testimonial would be perfect for, and then ship it out to them. So you're getting this little gem of a testimonial in front of the perfect sets of eyes, who I guarantee you, if they're the exact set of eyes, they will, I promise you, they will be reading every word of it with bated breath. So if that's not grabbing their attention, I definitely don't know what is. So when you open your inbox right now, if there was an email at the very top with a testimonial from your biggest competitor, and it was highlighted just right off the bat, hey, this is what your biggest competitor thinks of us, this is how they're seeing so much success. Do you think you'd take 10 seconds to read, what your competitor is saying is so fantastic that's making them so successful? Of course you would, or you definitely should. Bottom line here, ask every single one of your clients for a testimonial. You have nothing to lose, you have everything to gain, you have a lot of ability to build your brand this way, and it's also another great way to get some quality feedback from your clients as far as the growth of your platform and how they're engaging in it specifically. You might even learn different values that maybe you aren't pitching to your prospects that your clients are finding incredibly useful that you're providing. So on to sales hack number 3, start prospecting outside the box. And I know everybody wants to think that I think outside of the box, or we already think outside the box. The way to do this would be, there we go. One of the best aspects for this example, focusing on small businesses, is you have the potential to focus on virtually untouched territory if you can get in front of the right people. So where this territory is untouched, those people may be more difficult to actually find their contact information because they aren't readily available. However, on the flip side, because their contact information is not readily available, chances are, if it's harder for you to find and contact them, it's probably harder for your competition too. So go that extra mile, and it's a little more lonely at the top, hopefully. Same notion here, with the big guys. Do you think Coca-Cola has been pitched every single solution under the sun? Yeah, absolutely. They definitely have. Have all of your local jewelers and hospitals and home builders and fitness studios and dealerships, have they all been pitched those same solutions? It's less likely. This gives you home field advantage to take advantage of. So conversely, you need to cut through the noise. In today's world, everybody's overconnected, especially decision makers. They're inundated. There's so much noise coming their way. It's hard to cut through that noise. So you have to completely cut all of that by prospecting outside of the box, because you're reaching these people who are, again, less inundated, giving you a higher likelihood of actually being heard. So when you speak intelligently about those current events and specifics of their business, you'll genuinely pique their interest, again, so that you're actually being heard. And a great way to find or start those conversations that do pique these harder to reach individuals' interests are by shifting your focus and really seeing through industry awards. So another nice little gem out there that oftentimes gets overlooked are industry awards. And of course, there's the more obvious ones, but you should be keeping your eyes on them, all of them, not just the obvious ones. So we're thinking outside the box here, because of course, if customer sat is the name of your game, it's what you do. You improve customer sat for your clients. Of course, keeping your eye on J.D. Power totally makes sense. But how about also scanning things like the fastest growing companies, or in this case, the best place to work in LA or Dallas? Are you targeting restaurants? Are you targeting home builders? In that case, check out those specific industry awards. For example, don't you think it would be relevant to reach out to the top home builders in Ohio if builders were your ideal prospects? Or, for example, Wine Spectator's Best Restaurant. It gives you a really nice in, because you can then apply the thought process of how you fit into their picture. So going through the thought process of thinking, will your solution make their employees' jobs or customers' lives easier? Do you have the ability to save them time? Can you help generate more traffic or more revenue for them? All of those things are directly tied to their company maintaining any award they've earned, period. So you have to come to the table with a value add of saying, hey, I'm going to reach out, congratulate this individual, and now I'm going to give them this. I now have the opportunity to explain how my solution is going to help you lock down that honor again. Hey, we noticed you guys were the best place to work in Dallas in 2015. Our solution is going to make your employees' lives easier and help you maintain and lock that award down for 2017. So again, while you're at it, by sending all of that personalized and really relevant outreach, it kind of brings us to our next hack. So when you do reach out personally, show, don't tell. So a little counterintuitive to what we're normally used to, but by showing your prospects the value of what you offer them instead of actually just telling them yet another pitch, you stand out. So send something of genuine value, and here's the kicker. Ask nothing in return, which again I know sounds like a really crazy concept, but isn't it better to give than receive anyhow? So by showing and not telling, you're sending this personalized value to a prospect, and you're starting that relationship off on the right foot. The message you're sending here is, I'm here to help. This isn't about what they can do for you, rather what you can do for them. Plus, you come across, again, as inherently reputable right off the bat, which is, can be half the battle half the time. So because you care enough about this prospect that you took the time to really understand them, you're the expert here, this is also conveying that you obviously believe in your offering enough and how much value it brings to the table to let it do the talking instead of you. When you send something of value, your actions speak louder than words. And yes, it holds true. It's been around as long as ages, and it probably is for a reason. You're positioning yourself here as their partner that's valued instead of just a time suck who simply kind of wants their money at the end of the day. And a great way to send that kind of value that you're looking for, or that your prospect is really going to appreciate, you have a lot of different options here depending on how your business is structured. Is there any way you can offer some kind of free trial or free access? Do you have some sort of infographic that they might benefit from sharing on social media? Can you try explaining how their competitor is gaining a lot of value from your solution? Because, of course, most competitive business people are always going to care a great deal about their competition, what they're doing, where they're failing, where they're succeeding, how they stack up, and just kind of where they fit into the equation in order to, again, continue being successful and beat out that competition. So let your product and your expertise speak for itself. It's much, much easier to sell somebody that you have a partnership of value with than to try to succeed, again, with all of that noise and adding more inundation when they're already over-distracted as far as decision makers go. All of our inboxes are slammed full, so again, cut through all of that noise by showing your prospects the value that you offer them instead of telling them. So stand out there. And then on this same note, as far as adding value here, I'm very fortunate that with our company, we have an entire research team on staff here in Atlanta, if anybody else in the Southeast too. They're out there predicting market shifts and changes as opportunities for sellers, and then they're writing about and publishing about 15 of these or so articles a day for our clients every day. So when I'm having my morning coffee, I'm sifting through our platform called Daily Vista. But I'm sifting through the platform, I'm reading up on kind of, what's going on out there. And like, for example, this one that was posted this morning, this up-and-coming brand, our team highlighted that they've just closed $2 million worth of new funding. They have no agency, but it's predicted that they're going to kind of explode their marketing efforts, specifically in the New York City area. And the article even goes on to specifically say where sellers should be focusing their pitches, for example, on like affluent, mature, millennial females. So boom, that's all I need to know. And you can see how short this article even is. I know exactly who needs this insight, and I'm sending this as this is huge value. I'm shooting this directly over to all my prospects, both agency and digital media in this case, that are in New York City that all initially came to my mind, because this is something that they're genuinely going to want to see and genuinely should jump at the opportunity too. So I'm helping them out. I'm really putting some value in their inbox instead of just some more noise. So then I'm also, again, on the business development side, I'm also taking this information as far as I know who's going to benefit from seeing this, right? So now I'm using sales intelligence platforms and those tools like SIT codes to then really drill down deep and identify those specific companies that would also value this exact insight. So I'm sending an article their way because, again, with sales intelligence, I can quickly uncover exactly who those ideal decision makers are and their contact information. And I'm sending a warm lead straight to their inbox. There's no reason for someone to ignore a business opportunity right off the bat. And again, I'm building that value. I'm seen as reputable. I'm trusted. And again, I'm here to help is the message that I'm sending. And I'm letting my product speak for itself. And from that perspective, literally the value is in their hands. So this is a lead, not a pitch. And again, I'm showing, not telling. I'm here to help them be successful. So we're all inundated with those pitches nonstop. Let's all just stop pitching. By putting that opportunity into their hands and asking for nothing in return, I've shown worth. I am selflessly giving them a partnership of value. I understand them. I understand who they are, what they're focused on. And isn't that all that any business wants in the first place, is a partner that gets them and wants to help? Which brings us to our fifth sales hack here. So leveraging those wins and those losses. Loss is unfortunately inevitable, and most people are leveraging their wins to some extent, which is fantastic. But the less glamorous side, but just as important to note, is leveraging your losses. So are you getting just as much out of a loss as you are from your wins? Because if you're not, you should be. Bringing us to the hacks. So again, unfortunately, the fact of business is that losses are inevitable. And while those aren't necessarily positive for your bottom line right now, you do have the ability or the hack to kind of indirectly change those losses to be positive for you. So, just like everyone is already aware, are you asking every single client, hey, who do you know that could also benefit from your solution? If you are, great. Most people are, or you should be. But are you also asking every lost prospect those questions? Are you asking who they may know that you could talk to next? If you're not, what do you have to lose? This is especially helpful for those instances where you may have lost the sale due to something like a circumstance that was out of your control, like budget cuts. And in this case, feedback is your friend, even the good, the bad, and the ugly. And sometimes it's hard to hear. We don't necessarily want to hear it, but it's really critical to the growth of our product and to help us stay ahead of the curve and stay ahead of the competition. There's always somebody working 24 hours a day to take your job, if you will. And with that, you can then turn that feedback, maybe it was negative feedback, and reach back out to that lost prospect now that you offer that critical feature that they needed before. By doing that, you're showing, hey, I care, I didn't forget about you, I listened to you, and I took to heart what it is that you needed or what it is that was most valuable to you, and you were top of mind when that became an offering that we're now a perfect partner for you on. So when you fix and correct all of that, again, it just gives you more of an outreach as far as leveraging the losses so that you can hone that strategic outreach as well. So ultimately, at the end of the day, the second best answer that you can get in sales is a no. And I know that that, again, sounds counterintuitive, but go after the answers. Having a no is much better, and understanding why is much more advantageous to you because you can tweak things, you can change things, and you at least have an answer, so you're no longer wasting your time until that time becomes relevant to you again for you to reach out and reopen that opportunity. So at the end of the day, identify those qualified prospects, be niche, think outside the box, send something of value, don't ask for anything in return, show yourself as a partner, let them know that you're here to help, and even leverage those losses.
Okay, great. So thanks a lot, Amanda, for conducting today's webinar. If anyone has any questions and would like to be connected with Amanda, you can email us at webinars@thelsa.org. Also, for a look at what's coming in regards to our webinars and for access to all of our past webinars, you can visit www.thelsa.org/webinars. So with that, thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.